If we think of South Africa's national tourism development strategy, I'm here crunching down what is to be found somewhere, I'm sure, in about a 90-page long document into just 3 points. So those of you who come from the tourism sector, don't be too offended, but let me tell you very briefly what the country's tourism development strategy is. Basically, it's to increase the volume, spend and stay of tourists. Get more tourists to the country, increase the amount of money they spend, and get them to stay longer. Improve the geographic spread, so they're not going just to Joburg, Durban and Cape Town. Spread the seasonality, so that they're not focused just in the high seasons. And include people who've previously been excluded. And part of what we do in the Tourism Enterprise Partnership makes a contribution to that. And then develop the enablers: safety, good products, high quality, skills, and so on. That's roughly what we're trying to do as a country in the tourism sector. The contribution the Business Trust has made is to focus on developing an internationally competitive marketing strategy. We did that between 1999 and 2004 with SA Tourism, where we helped restructure South Africa's marketing strategy. Developing skills, we ran quite a substantial training program to try and improve skills in this sector, and we're currently focusing primarily on the development of enterprises. If I look at what happened over the last year, the number of enterprises supported increased from 4,000 to 4,700. The value of transactions undertaken by those enterprises increased from 3.2 billion to 3.8 billion. And the person years of work supported as a result of that rose from 40,000 to 47,000. I'm not going to, in each of these cases, read through every number on the slide. It gets boring. But the way the slide is constructed is to show you what the change was between 2007 and 2008 and what the target is by 2010. We think that the highlight of the year was that we were able to convert what had been established as a project into a company. So there is now an independently registered company that is undertaking this work. It has some of South Africa's most skilled and prominent business leaders guiding the company. The chairman is currently Tony van Kralingen of SA Breweries. It has on it the head of chairman of a mining company. It has the head of an investment company on it. It has a former director general of tourism on it. And so there's a really good mix of people with a lot of experience who are helping to guide the company. What we're trying to do as a country is to acquire those skills the economy needs to grow and develop effectively by identifying priorities, procuring agreements among social partners, business, government and labour as to how to get those skills, and then to monitor and support the action that is needed to be taken by a wide range of people in South Africa to get the skills it needs. Our job has been to support the Secretariat that does that works with business, government and labour to get all that stuff done. To give you an example, at the start of this program, South Africa was producing 1,500 engineers per annum. The analysis that was done by GIPSA showed that we need 2,500 engineers per annum. Work was undertaken with the Department of Education, who concluded that by 2010 they could produce 2,000 engineers per annum through the education system, provided there was quite substantially increased investment. That left the gap of about 500 per annum. And GIPSA has been working on ways in which we can attract those people from overseas. We can bring back people who've retired, and has been working with Home Affairs and others to make sure that that can be done. The highlight of the year was the setting of those targets for attracting those 2,500 engineers and to creating 50,000 artisans by 2010. If I go on to the infrastructure work, essentially what South Africa is doing here is trying to accelerate public infrastructure through state-owned enterprises, the big ones in Transnet and Eskom, through national, provincial and local departments and via public-private partnerships. Many people don't realize that all the big talk about state-owned enterprises covers only about half of the infrastructure spend that has to take place. And that the other half is the rest, which is mainly provincial and local government, where the capacity, as I think many of you know, is weak. And that's the area on which we have concentrated to build capacity to deliver at those levels. What we've been doing is building that, improving stakeholder engagement and supporting strategy development. And the highlight of the year has been the launch of a project preparation fund, which will help municipalities prepare projects so that they can get them into the ground and effectively implemented. I'll come back and explain what that means in a minute. The third area, which focuses on combating poverty, covers the Expanded Public Works Support Program, EPWSP, and the Community Investment Program, CIP. If we say, what is the country trying to do on expanded public works? It's trying to increase the labour intensity of government programs. That's essentially what we're trying to do in the socio-economic environment and infrastructure sectors. And our task has been to provide strategic, operational and logistical support to the Expanded Public Works Unit in the National Department. We were asked to do this in 2004, following a meeting of the President's Big Business Working Group. And you might remember that in the elections at that time, public works was really a major plank in the election platform. And our board agreed to do this. Just to give you some idea of how this works, the program was scoped, the proposal was put to the board, we identified what we thought it would take, we realized a long-term commitment would be required. We agreed that we would provide support over a 5-year period at the level of about 100 million rand, and to support the department to do this work in that way. This gives you an idea of the way in which the Business Trust works. There are many people who play different sorts of roles. Very few give that long-term 5-year commitment, and there are very few, certainly based on business funding, that are able to provide funding at that level. That's what we did. We went into the department and we said, well, can we see the people now who are responsible in this department for meeting this objective of providing income and work for 1 million people? And we were introduced to one person. That was it. The department had one person, and that was his job. He was a very smart person. He had a lot of good experience. He was highly qualified, but he had an extraordinary job in his hands. And so we worked with him to work out how this could be done. We created a logical framework for the project, and we put quite quickly, within 3 months, we had 20 people in the field, highly skilled professionals who were beginning to work with provinces and municipalities and on the strategy development stuff. And so the process began. We've worked with that department very effectively since then. The really good news about this is that having set the target of creating income and work for 1 million people, that target was achieved in 4 years rather than 5. Often when I listen to people make these sorts of presentations, I say to myself, well, these figures look all very impressive, but I wonder what they actually do. And I thought I might just dip for a moment into the work we've done on the Expanded Public Works Program to give you an idea what the Business Trust does. So if we look at the way the country is doing this, responsibility for public works is given to the Department of Public Works. They set up a unit, the EPWP unit. That unit is responsible for developing policy and strategy, and for working with national, provincial and local governments to get them to implement public works programs. People often don't realize that the Department of Public Works doesn't have the authority to actually implement the program. Only other line departments, provinces and municipalities can do that. So that's what they have to do. We set up a support program to provide strategic and logistical support on the one hand and operational support on the other. So what did that come down to? The program we set up, which, as I was saying earlier, had about 20 high-level professionals in it, worked with 6 municipalities and 2 provinces to secure 398,000 of the targeted 1 million work opportunities. We agreed with the Department of Public Works at the start of this program that we would focus on those areas where there was the best chance of getting the highest result quickest.